There's something which is so magical about being in Nara, and I think a lot of that has to do with the wild deer that are roaming around. So if you've ever been to Japan or wish to go there, you've probably seen pictures or videos of deer bowing to pedestrians to get food. The first time I saw this, I was like, is this fake? Are these trained deer? Is this a specific area where you pay to get in and then the deer sort of bow to you and you get a whole experience? No. These are actually wild deer who have learned to bow to get food. Sometimes they don't take your food until you've bowed back. Almost like a symbol of respect there. Now, I have seen some videos of the deer getting a bit aggressive sometimes, but more times than not, they're pretty calm. And to get to Nara, we took a short day trip from Kyoto. We get out of Nara station, we walk to Nara Park, and we're greeted by hundreds of these beautiful deer. These are some of the pictures I captured on the Canon AE1 program using Silbersalz 500T film, and immediately you're going to notice something in these pictures. There's very harsh light coming down. That's because this was in peak summer. This was an excruciatingly hot day. The deer are having their midday nap. They're chilling in the shade. And so the vast majority of people were in the center of the park looking for the main crowd of deer, trying to get pictures with them, trying to feed them. A lot of these deer couldn't be bothered. They were like, we've had enough to eat for today, we just want to chill now. And these deer kind of struck my eye. Being in a little pond, lots of algae on there, I thought that would come out as a nice picture, and I think it came out pretty nice. You can see the stark contrast between the shadows, they're sort of loitering in, and also the harsh sunlight, but also it gives you a feel for a nice summer's day. And then we go around the corner to Todaiji Temple. Now let me tell you, this temple is stunning. It is huge. You can't tell from the pictures that you're probably seeing right now. And that's what I thought the first time I went there. Even when you're standing a couple hundred meters away, it feels like an illusion. You get closer and it is massive. And so we start getting closer to the temple, and then the sort of entrance area, which is like covered in shade, where you've got a nice view of the walkway up to the temple around this nicely cut grass. We actually just chill there for a bit because we are dying from the heat. It is like the middle of the day. But around this point, I snapped up this really cute pic. It's this little girl in the middle of the swarm of people running in and out, playing with one of the deer. Mum taking a nice cute picture of her, and she's just enjoying the moment, having fun with the local deer, which I thought was a really nice pic. And then we get to the temple. Now, it houses one of the biggest Buddha statues in Japan. So you enter the temple, and the first thing you are greeted with is this massive great Buddha statue sitting directly in the middle, and on both its flanks are two smaller golden statues. You do a nice little clockwise walk inside there. There's lots of like pictures and paintings up on the wall and sculptures. It's a really nice temple to look around in. And I know some of these pictures came out grainy. I think a lot of this grain came from the fact that I took my film through the airport scanners multiple times, and that's why you've got this unnatural sort of grain in there, which normally you wouldn't really see on the film stock. So we leave the temple and decide to grab a drink, because in these long summer days, we were just splitting up everything we were doing with little visits to shops where they have AC, because as a tourist, you want to walk around, so we are like this close to heat stroke. So as we're walking out of the temple, we're walking down in Nara Park, and there's this like really picturesque view of these trees, this little stream running down the middle, and these wonderfully luminant, is that a word? Luminant? These dragonflies being illuminated by the sun. The sun is at a point where it's bouncing off these little dragonfly looking insects, and I can see them from far away. I'm just thinking, can I capture that? And I snapped up this picture, but looking back at it, you can't really see them super clearly, but there was something just really nice about that moment. I just felt like it generally looked like a movie scene. And then we get to the coffee shop, which was this very interesting architectural like building. The way it was designed, it was very weird. It's like you come into the shop, and then right in front of you, you can see a glass panel and just empty space underneath another floor, which is easily accessible from stairs, and you can see up on that floor as well. So it was like a very unique design for that cafe. This isn't the best of pictures, I know, I just wanted to take it for memory's sake. Then we're walking, trying to get back to the station, and along the way we're walking down these very narrow alleyways behind houses. It's dead quiet, people at home, probably just resting, probably just at work, to be fair. It was really nice just kind of getting lost in Nara. Like, these few pictures capture that stillness, that emptiness on the roads. This one picture I thought would come out really nice. I really like how the building and the trees in the back turned out. There's that nice kind of glow on them. But this really nice looking car was in this dingy sort of shelter, but it looked quite retro, it looked really cool, but it's a bit dark, it's not really illuminated super well, but at the same time, it still looks really nice. And this final picture from Nara was this really interesting sort of frame. This building just caught my eye. I think architecturally, it just looked really cool. like this brutalist sort of architecture there. And these next few pictures I took of local train stations when I was at either Nara, Kyoto, or on the way to Osaka. This first one was kind of nice. I just have this real fascination with the people who work in Japan. Their uniform is always looking crisp. They take immense pride in the work that they do. If you see in the Kyoto video, you saw the traffic warden who had this sort of really cool vest with the ventilation system. And everyone just seems to take their job very seriously, have a lot of respect for the work that they do, especially if they're serving the public. I just sort of wanted to capture a moment of day-to-day life of one of these workers doing their day-to-day job. And I know it may come across boring, but I think it's quite interesting to see what it looks like in civil service abroad. And then we come on to one of my favorite pictures of the entire series. This picture of commuters in a little group. You know, this one main subject is sort of like staring at something. We're wondering what it is. Is it a train coming? Is he looking at the times? You can see the clear sign saying Shinkansen. If you look in the distance, you can see, you know, Osaka, Nara on one of the smaller signs. Just looking at this picture, there's something about it which really stands out to me. It's like, it's oddly familiar because everyone knows what it's like to be commuting either in the morning or on the way back from work, maybe in a central city like London, New York. So there's something familiar there, but at the same time, it also does look very foreign. You've got the Japanese writing, you've got the people who are clearly of sort of Asian descent. One of the workers is dressed up in a really nice sort of suit with the mask on, which back when I first visited Japan, I realized that it was a very big cultural thing to wear masks, not specifically when other people were ill, but when you were ill, you would wear a mask to prevent other people from getting ill. I had never even thought about that when I first went to Japan. This was before the pandemic, but it's just really interesting to see how growing up in the West, there's certain ways of thinking which are very hard to get out of. Like, I would have never thought that people wear masks specifically to protect others. There's a lot of information derived just from a few quick glances at this picture. And also it just looks very aesthetically pleasing. And finally, I snapped up this pic because I wanted to document what the signs look like. Sometimes just looking at these ordinary day-to-day signs or objects on the road, on the street, anytime you go to somewhere new, it feels quite interesting. So it was more of a documentation purpose, this picture. And then finally we get to Osaka, which was the final leg of the trip. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it. A lot of people tell me that it's, you know, the food hub of Japan, where people rave about the food. But as a Muslim who only eats halal food, it's more difficult to have that same experience compared to someone who doesn't have, you know, any sort of restrictions on what they can eat. But I kind of like the food everywhere in Japan, so it didn't really have that one up to like Tokyo or Kyoto for me. But there is one thing which really stood out to me when I went to Osaka, which is at night it is really popping. Like, people are flooding the streets, they are everywhere, especially the central area like Dotonbori. It just reminds me of Shibuya Crossing so much because you've got all these massive billboards, these lights, you've got the Glico Running Man billboard there, and it's a really cool, interesting place to be, especially at night. And like many other cities, it's a very grid-like system in terms of like the roads, the infrastructure. And once you go on some of these side roads, it's like a visual overload. You're seeing all these wires, signs, and writing. I just sort of took a few pictures to capture that feeling of so much going on. In this portrait picture, you can see a taxi, you got a sort of a guy coming back maybe with some food, heading home. The visual stimulation is mad. And at night, especially in the central area, it's just insane. And this one picture, like, it wasn't focused super well, but it kind of gives you that feeling of mayhem going on. The locals are all out partying. Maybe it's a younger crowd here, because I did get the feeling that there was a lot of people drinking quite heavily in the area. There was a lot of unruly behavior and stuff. So it gives you that feeling that, like, I need to kind of watch out for what's going on because it's a lot more manic. Took a cheeky selfie with my boy Asfi in this little mirror. Looks a bit grainy, but I think that's a nice pic. And then we move on back to the day, which suddenly feels like a massive crash. You feel like you're getting all this stimulation and all of a sudden just slow. And so we took a little walk down, looking at some camera shops, trying to get some coffee. I snapped this really cool moment of this guy loading or unloading his car, and I don't know, it just felt like a very nice one moment of daily life captured, which I thought came out quite nice. This picture, if you contrast it to some of the ones I've taken at night, it just shows that it kind of feels a bit like a ghost town. Where is everyone? Where are all the lights? This is like a more residential street, of course, but it generally does feel a lot more dull. But this final picture I took was another one of my favorites of the entire roll. On one hand, you've got this worker in the center of the frame. Like, the way it's framed makes him really stand out, clearly having a break of some sort. On the corners of the screen, you've got these two people holding umbrellas. You can see the sky being light blue. Why the hell are they holding umbrellas? It is because, as I said before, the Japanese summers are boiling. It gives a subconscious clue to the viewer that this is a hot summer's day. People are trying to protect themselves from UV, but also the contrast between the black and white umbrella. It's almost like it's pointing at this person. It's adding information without necessarily distracting the viewer. At a very quick glance, you can get what you need from those corners of the image. You can see that it's a residential area. You can see a 7-Eleven there. You can see the power lines, very typical of Japan. And it just looks very visually appealing. And I think that's why I just like it so much. And that's about all I took in Nara and Osaka. They were very short trips, so I didn't get that many pictures there, but to be fair, given the fact that it was really hot, we were really getting exhausted from going out, and we definitely did like a third of what we probably could have done if it was in any other season. Thank you so much for watching, especially those who have stayed through the entire Japan series. We've got a lot of really cool locations coming up that I want to share with you guys. Amazing footage, drone work, new gear. Stay tuned and I'll see you very soon.